Take a look at this. I used to do 4 or even 5 sets of an exercise over here because I thought that more sets was actually king. I was left fatigued, gassed out because the workouts were almost up to 2 hours or even longer. I started working a full-time job and it made it even more difficult, so I had to change something. I started doing more research and I found out the low volume, high intensity method. My workouts got cut in half, which initially I was a bit skeptical of, but I was like, why not give it a try? To my surprise, it was the best change that I made, and I even got better results from my physique. I had more energy, more focus, and started to enjoy my workouts more, which made being consistent much easier. In today's video, I'm going to share with you what is the low volume, high intensity method, why it works well, and how you can implement it to get more gains in less time. Let's get right into it. What is low volume, high intensity? Let's just go through some key terms. First of all, volume. What is volume? Volume is basically the amount of work done. It's calculated by weights, sets, and reps. Example, if you do a squat for 100 kilos for 5 sets of 5, that's a volume of about 2,500 kg. And low volume generally refers to about 2 sets per exercise for 4 to 8 reps versus 4 sets per exercise for 8 to 12 reps. There's also less exercises for a given muscle group in a session, typically of about 1 to 3. A good guideline will be 2 to 6 sets for a single session and 4 to 10 sets in a total week. Intensity refers to how hard you are training, and this is typically measured by your proximity to failure. Failure is where you are unable to perform another rep no matter how much force you are generating. A measurement of reps in reserve or reps to failure is often used to measure your intensity. So low volume, high intensity just means that for each exercise you typically stick to about 1 to 3 sets at a high intensity, meaning about 0 to 2 reps to failure, and this ensures that every set is as effective as possible. When you do a low amount of quantity, it requires a higher amount of quality, which refers to the intensity of each set here. You want to pick no more than 3 exercises for a muscle group in a session and no more than 8 exercises in a total session. This ensures that your overall volume will be productive. To make the workout more optimal for muscle growth, I also combine it with a higher frequency. Frequency just refers to the amount of times that you're actually hitting a muscle group in a week. Research has shown that 2 times per week frequency is much better than 1 times per week frequency, because high frequency allows you to maximize the amount of productive stimulus in a week. Muscles typically take about 24 to 48 hours to recover, sometimes up to 72 hours. So you want to hit the muscle group when they're fresh and good to go once again to maximize the amount of stimulus in a week. It is also more productive. Imagine that you have 6 sets of chest in a week. If you do it all in a single session, you're going to be quite gassed out and you're only going to train it after a week. But if you divide it into 3 sets 2 times a week, that will be far more productive because each session you will feel much more fresh and you're able to push much harder and thus get a better stimulus for muscle growth. And that is why I combine high frequency together with this low volume and high intensity approach. Why does this actually work? We first need to understand the principles of muscle growth. You need to be training close to failure, and this means at a very high intensity where your reps involuntarily start to slow down. It is at this point where your muscles experience the most mechanical tension, which is the key driver of muscle growth. Pushing close to failure allows for a very optimal stimulus for muscle growth in this case, as you're producing maximal mechanical tension on the target muscle. Since we're training at a high intensity, in order to perform a productive and quality set, we have to ensure that we are fully recovered. I recommend that you take about 2 to 3 minutes of rest for isolation movements and 3 to 4 minutes, even up to 5 for compound movements. To ensure that you're actually gaining muscle over time, you need to be progressively overloading. Progressive overload is a very good sign of muscle growth. It is when you're able to do more weight for a given number of reps or more reps for a given weight at a specific intensity, meaning reps to failure, and for the same technique, meaning their form doesn't actually break down. The ability to progressive overload is a result of adaptations that have occurred due to the stimulus that we have provided through resistance training close to failure on our target muscles. Your muscles will increase in size and thus they'll be able to generate more force, and when they're able to generate more force, you will then be able to push more weight in the gym. So you need to ensure that you're progressively overloading over time to ensure that you're actually building muscle. The low volume, high intensity method with a high frequency also ensures a better fatigue management. If fatigue didn't actually exist, we would be infinitely scaling how much we train, but it actually exists, and fatigue is actually part of stimulus. They don't exist independently. Stimulus drives adaptations, but this stimulus generates fatigue, and fatigue affects the stimulus on the muscle because you're not able to generate as much force. Lower volume allows for adequate recovery from fatigue. This can be in the form of less sets, exercises, or less training days. This will then allow you to continually progress in the gym and train to provide a quality stimulus on your muscle. That is why even though I cut my workouts in half, I'm still training close to failure at a high intensity, providing an optimal stimulus for muscle growth. With the lower volume approach, I'm also getting adequate recovery, which allows me to continually progress on my lifts. Combine that with a high frequency approach, every set that I do is more productive in general, as I actually split up my sets across the week instead of doing them all in a single session, which takes more time and is also less productive. With the low volume high intensity approach, commitment is also much easier because you're spending less time in the gym, which makes it easier to stay committed to it. You'll feel more energized throughout your workouts and also feel more focused. Let's go through how you can actually implement the low volume high intensity approach with high frequency. Here are some sample workout programs that I have that you can follow. First is the 4-day upper lower full body hybrid split that uses the low volume high intensity and also high frequency approach, which is very optimal for muscle growth. If you're interested in this program, you can check out the Excel sheet down below in the description box. It takes no more than 1 hour to do, and for every exercise there's alternatives that you can choose from, so you can pick the exercises that you enjoy the most and are available in your gym. I feel like it's really the most effective program you can do to maximize muscle growth, so check it out if you're interested. You can also do the 4-day upper lower split, which I've actually made a video on it before. You can check out the video if you're interested over here to get a good idea of how you can program your workouts. Or you can also run the 4-day upper lower split into a 3.5-day upper lower split where you're actually running it every other day. Lastly, you can do a 3-day full body split, and I've also made a program on it before. You can check out the link in the description below. For the rest of the video, I'll be explaining key workout principles that you can follow in order to maximize the amount of gains that you can make. When it comes to building muscle, a stable movement often leads to better gains. You don't have to worry too much about stabilization demands, and thus you're able to push much closer to failure. Machines help to cut short your workouts by a lot. You can just simply move the pin in order to increase or decrease the weight. Not to mention, they also require less skill, so you don't have to warm up as extensively as compared to barbell lifts. Barbell lifts also require a lot of setup. You have to find some plates, get a bar, and then put the plates inside, which can be very time consuming. For progression, I just follow a simple linear progression scheme. You just pick a weight you can do for 4 to 8 reps for X number of sets. Once you reach 8 reps for the next session, increase by the smallest increment possible. With the new weight, work back up to the top end of the rep range, meaning 8 reps. Once you reach 8 reps, the next session, increase by the smallest increment once again, then keep repeating this process. Sometimes it can be quite hard to progress, so I'll do a double step progression. How it works is that you do a smaller jump in your next session just for your first set. Increase the weight. Once you hit the first set with the top end of the rep range, then you just bring your second set along, increasing the weight for your second set. And from the next session, you can just simply increase the weight of the first set once again and leave the second set as the previous session's weight. When it comes to managing plateaus, obviously it will happen after a while. What you can do is to try and reduce the amount of volume that you're doing. Instead of 3 exercises for chest, try and reduce it to 2, or instead of 3 sets for an exercise, just try and reduce it to 2. You can also reduce the intensity for the week. Instead of training to 0 to 1 reps to failure, try and back it off and do 2 reps to failure instead. You can also just take the week completely off. I hope you guys found this video informational on how you can cut your workouts in half but still get better gains. You just need to understand that you have to train to a high intensity to ensure that you're providing an optimal stimulus for muscle growth, and to ensure that you're continually able to provide an optimal stimulus, you need to ensure that you're also managing fatigue well enough. The low volume, high intensity, and high frequency approach works really well in this case. If you guys enjoy these types of videos, do like and subscribe. It'll really help me a lot. Comment down below if you want to see any types of videos, and I'll see you guys in the next video.